Great game for the Giants. They go into Dodger Stadium, a place where they've had a horrible time this season. They hit 5 home runs and beat the Dodgers, and a couple of those home runs coming off the bat of players who could be a part of the future of this team. So we'll get into all of it next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And coming up on today's show, we have a fun one to talk about. The Giants go into Dodger Stadium, where they have been not good at all this season. And frankly, the Giants have played the Dodgers tough over this stretch of dominance that LA has had over the last 10 years or so. But this year, that really hasn't been the case. Although they did have that one sweep of 3 games in San Francisco. I think they may have I don't know exactly what their record was going into that game, because I don't want to know, because it wasn't good. And so going into LA last night and having the game they had was a breath of fresh air. And also a breath of fresh air has been Lewis Brinson, who just continued to play well and took it up a notch with 2 home runs in this game, both coming against left-handed pitching, notably. And so I think there's always some confusion. I want to clarify for anyone who's confused. Giants have a different lineup when there's a lefty starter versus when there's a righty starter. And the lefty lineup, this is the thing for me that stands out a little bit this year. There was a lot of concerns about the lineup that they would have against left-handed pitching, but I actually thought that it was the opposite and that they might have more problems against right-handed pitching, and that's how it's gone. This lefty lineup, there's not a lot of name brand talent in there, but they can all give you a problem. And Lewis Brinson is the latest one here. Brinson, J.D. Davis was an acquisition at the trade deadline, and he's been a problem for opposing lefties when he's been in the batter's box. He hit a home run in this game. Thairo Estrada hit a home run in this game, and David Villar hit a home run in this game. So all 4 of those players I just mentioned who hit homers last night are under club control for at least 3 more seasons. At least 3 more seasons for all 4 of them. And in the case of Estrada and VR, it's longer than that. And so these guys getting a look here in September is an important part of building towards the future, especially with guys like Brinson and VR, because they're so unproven. Well, Brinson has a track record of major league play with the Marlins, and it did not go well, but he's unproven with the Giants. And, their hitting coaches have been known to make a difference in certain players. And he is just a very different type of player for the Giants and is providing some energy that they've been lacking. And, when he got here, he said, what's he going to bring? He just wants to bring a fun attitude. He likes to have fun. And this season has been missing that. They have not had a lot of guys who have had fun playing the game. And when you have these older veteran players who were struggling, it's just going to lead to frustration, and frustration for them playing and frustration as a fan watching. And so it obviously, if you watched the game last night, it was hard to not have a smile on your face pretty much throughout the whole thing. And so I just want to quickly mention the contract status and the performance and what to expect here. So Brinson, if he performs well, he can be brought back for 3 additional seasons via arbitration. Next year would be arbitration number 1 for him. And so that's a good situation. If he can play well for you, this is the type of guy you should be going out and auditioning, because it's what we would call a keeper. And that's the beauty of picking up a guy like this, and if he performs well, you can keep him. So David Villar, obviously different situation. He's a pure rookie. He had never played in the major leagues before the Giants called him up in July, struggled in that brief cameo, went back down, continued to play well, and is back up here in September. And the Giants have identified him as like the most deserving player and that they're going to give him a lot of playing time. Most deserving player from the minors to get a shot here in the major leagues. And worth noting, I haven't mentioned this before, but he was leading the Pacific Coast League, possibly even all of AAA, but maybe just the PCL, in weighted runs created plus. And Kapler mentioned it's the second straight year he's led the league he's in overall offense. And when he talks about kind of overall offense, he's not talking about batting average, which, man, I don't like it when we say he's leading the league in hitting and you're just talking about batting average. That's wrong in my opinion. But if you look at an all-encompassing number like weighted runs created plus, VR, I do believe, led last year in AA and is leading this year in AAA, maybe just in the specific league that they're in, that he's in. But anyway, regardless, he had a monster season in AAA. Nothing left to prove there. He hit 275, 404 on base, 617 slugging. He had 27 home runs in just 84 games. And so, yeah, at this point in the season, given where the Giants are in the standings, even though they've made some progress here in the last 4 days, still 7.5 back with 30 or 29 to play, it's definitely worth giving a look to these younger players. And you could make a case, why didn't we maybe see some of this sooner? Because clearly it wasn't working with what they had. But at least they're doing it now, and it really could be a fun September. It has the potential to be. They could just start losing a bunch. That's often what happens when you go to younger players who aren't proven. You get bad performance a lot of the time. So just being realistic, but at the same time, it's been fun in the month of September so far for the Giants. So coming up in just a minute, there was a big decision that, speaking of like giving David Villar playing time, Gabe Kapler took him out right after he hit a home run early in the game. So why did Kapler do that? And we'll also get into more from this game, Logan Webb and the bullpen doing their job. But first, if you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough, my personal favorite. Covered in chocolate. That's right, Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite, cookie dough chunk puffs. Have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff. Whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just need to grab a quick bite, Built is the perfect protein bar. They taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo LOCKEDON15. All right, as promised, more from this game, including what was at the time, in my mind, a little bit of a strange and controversial decision to take out David Villar after he had just singled and homered in the early part of this game. They took him out, might have been the fourth inning. It was pretty early on. But, because on TV, they didn't do a great job of showing who was out. So we were watching and it was like, okay, Mike Yastrzemski's in the game. So did that mean Bryce Johnson came out? And then they showed Bryce Johnson and it's like in left, who had started in right. And we're like, okay, does that mean Thairo Estrada's out? Because he started in left. And then they showed the infield and Wilmer Flores was at first and Thairo Estrada was at second. And it had started with Villar at first and Flores at second. And so it was unclear who had come out. And so they really need to show you immediately. Otherwise, it can be confusing. But anyway, what happened was they took out Villar. And then all those other moves happened where they shifted Flores to first, Estrada from left to second, Yastrzemski into the game, and Bryce Johnson from right to left. And so what it did, in Gabe Kapler's mind, and hard to argue with it, was that they improved their defense at many positions on the field, all with one move. And so Kapler said after the game that this is courtesy of Alex Pavlovich. I'm going to read just what Pavlovich tweeted. He said, Gabe Kapler said David Villar is fine. With a big lead, he saw an opportunity to improve defensively at several spots. It paid off pretty quickly with that relay from left field. So indeed, it did. And the relay was a critical moment in this game, and it was a bad send by the third base coach, Dino Ebel, of the Dodgers. It would have been second and third, nobody out, with Trey Turner and Freddie Freeman coming up. But Bryce Johnson played a ball off the wall and threw to Crawford, and Crawford threw home, and it was a one-hop play for Austin Wynns, who dug it out and applied the tag, and he was out by a lot. And so that was a turning point in the game. It was 6-2 Giants at that point. And it would have been 6-2 with second and third and nobody out. And with Turner and Freeman coming up, I think it's pretty much automatic that they're going to score both of those runs. There's really no reason with nobody out to be hyper aggressive there, especially when you look at it and it wasn't even that close. So I'm all about being aggressive, but not with nobody out and depending on who's coming up, of course. And I don't really want to challenge Crawford. And maybe Dino Ebel wasn't aware that it wasn't Thairo Estrada in the outfield, because Estrada is not so experienced, but Bryce Johnson is a good defensive center fielder. And so playing him in a corner, I think he got to it quick. He made a perfect throw to Crawford, and Crawford made a one-hop throw home. And so that was a huge play. And you can, if that hadn't happened, I'm sure that there would have been people, and there probably still are, critical of the decision to take out David Villar. But at the same time, if you're going to do that, you need to acknowledge when it works. And also, I mean, come on, this season, the defense has cost them games, and you're playing the Dodgers. You really don't have a big margin for error at all. In fact, you have none. And so you can easily let this game slip away. Their offense is more than capable of putting up, at that time they were down by 4. They can, in 6 innings left to play, they could have easily put up that many runs with that many innings left. And so putting their best defense out there, and also Kapler mentioned that it was kind of for Logan Webb. And their pitchers like Webb deserve, and they did it for Cobb the other night, keeping in some of their better defenders who are older in a blowout, because Cobb deserves to get some support, because early on in the year it was such a disaster and a lot of runs came in that shouldn't have when the defense let them down. And so it was about trying to beat a extremely good Dodgers team. When you have a lead, try to protect it. So I get it, but it's not great to take out a guy who you're auditioning, and your position in the standings is what it is, and you kind of want to see the guy play. So on the one hand, I get the criticism, but on the other hand, and it wasn't just that relay. There were Wilmer Flores made a nice play. Thairo Estrada made a nice play to finish out the game. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm fine with it, mostly because of what Kapler said next, which is that he judged it as, look, Villar is going to get a lot of opportunities here. We've still got a month of baseball left, and he's probably going to play pretty much every day. And so taking him out halfway through one game, when you just want to protect the lead that you have against this lethal Dodgers team that is so good, that, I understand it. And he was out of position too, right? He's playing first base, and I think we'll see him play some third. We'll see him move around. But anyway, it was a good game regardless for David Villar. Some of the other notes from this game, Logan Webb gave up a couple runs in the first, gave up a home run to Freddie Freeman. Game didn't start out well for the defense. Longoria made a 2-base error on the first hitter of the game for the Dodgers. And after that, they played a clean defensive game, and that home run in the first inning, those were the only 2 earned runs I'm wrong. 2 earned runs, 3 total runs, but one of the first inning runs was unearned. But he ended up allowing 2 earned runs, 3 runs in 6 innings. Just another solid outing for Logan Webb, who's just having a very solid year. The strikeout numbers are down a little bit from last year, but he's still just very good. Maybe he's not like elite right now, but very good starting pitcher. And you pair him with Rodon, who's a free agent. Well, he's got the opt-out, but man, I think they should bring him back or sign Jacob deGrom or something, another ace to pair with Logan Webb towards the top, and then makes your rotation pretty good, as it's been all season long for the Giants. Another kind of standout couple of performances from this game, Camilo Doval has rebounded nicely in the last few games after a couple shaky outings and had a nice clean inning. Did give up one hit, but otherwise a very nice inning for Doval. And how about Scott Alexander, who has now thrown 5 1/3 scoreless. No, excuse me. He's allowed 1 run, 5 1/3 innings, 1 earned run. Hasn't walked anybody. Ground ball rate is 75%. Launch angle against him on average, negative 13.9 degrees. Okay. The leaders in the sport are like around 0, if the very, very top, and he's at negative 14 degrees. It's obviously a small sample. We're talking about just a handful of balls in play, but that's what Scott Alexander does. He's not at negative 14 degrees, but actually in his career, he's at negative 3.6. So he's one of the more extreme ground ball pitchers in the game. His career ground ball rate against him is 70%, and league average is around 40. So, man, he gets a ton of ground balls, and he's also struck out a third of the batters he's faced here with the Giants in this little brief sample. He's faced a total of 18 hitters and struck out a third of them. He struck out Freddie Freeman, who couldn't believe Freddie Freeman was looking around like, what just happened? And then he struck out Max Muncy. So he's been a nice addition. My understanding is that given when he was added to the 40-man and the active roster, that he will not reach 6 years of service time by the end of the year. Therefore, he will be someone who can be brought back for next year. So this is an important audition period for not just guys like Brinson and Villar, but also some of these new bullpen guys like Alex Young and Scott Alexander. So coming up in just a minute, I want to make a couple of notes about yesterday's show. I need to make a correction to something I said about roster sizes, and I also need to give Wilmer Flores the credit he deserves and discuss his impending free agency. But first, all right, as promised, we're going to make a correction from yesterday. We made a mistake, and we're also going to discuss Wilmer Flores's impending free agency. So the mistake that we made was that I was talking about roster sizes. I did like a whole segment on this, so I'm kind of embarrassed, and I apologize for wasting your time to an extent if you heard this. But I was saying that in 2021, there were 28-man rosters all season, and that's just not true. I looked it up because I wasn't totally sure about that, and I looked it up after the fact. It seems like a rookie mistake. I'm not a rookie at doing this, but it was a rookie-type mistake. Should have looked it up before recording, not after, if I wasn't sure. But no, last year they had 26-man rosters. I'm not entirely sure. I think they may have started with bigger rosters and then cut it down. But they did that in 2020, and that's probably just what I'm thinking of. The whole point was that in this September, with 28-man rosters, I thought it looked more like last year with all the pinch hitting and matchups they were able to get, sometimes in succession, like 4 pinch hitters in a row, as we saw on Saturday in the win over the Phillies. But my memory was failing me. They didn't have that last year, so I don't know what I was thinking about. The thing I probably was thinking about was the fact that there's now a DH, and that changes the way that the position players on your team are used, because last year you only had 8 position players in the lineup and 1 pitcher. This year, every day, you've got 9 position players. I'm counting the DH as a position player, even though by definition they're not playing a position, but I just mean non-pitchers. So they've got 9. So if you have a 13-man position player mix and 13 pitchers for a 26-man roster, last year you had an extra guy on the bench because one of the guys was not in the lineup. And so I think that's what I was thinking about. So I believe the point still stands, which is that they had an extra guy on the bench pretty much at all times last year. And this year they don't. They have one shorter. And so adding 2 players to your roster, and they could be both position players, but the Giants have added pitchers as well. So I'm actually up to the moment not sure if they're at 14 position players, 14 pitchers. But the point is that it's nice to have a little bit bigger roster with the constitution of this team and all the pinch hitting and matchups that they're able to do. It works to their benefit when the roster is a little bit bigger. And I think we've seen that over the last few days in September. So anyway, just wanted to make that clarification. But the other point was that I didn't even mention, I don't believe, that Wilmer Flores hit this walk-off home run. It was like the number one note. I think the heat wave is getting to me. It's hot in this room that I'm in right now. I don't know if you can see I'm sweating a little bit here, but if you're watching on YouTube, can't see it if you're listening, but only listening. But Wilmer Flores, it was the number one note, and I didn't even mention it. I don't know what happened, but he hit this walk-off home run on Sunday, and it just naturally got all of us thinking about his impending free agency, because Wilmer Flores has been a very good Giant over the course of the last 3 seasons. He's been kind of like the glue and the underappreciated but super important not centerpiece, but I don't know. You get what I'm saying. He's just vital to this team, even though he's not a star, even though he's not flashy. He is just very important to this team, and he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's 31 years old, just turned 31 in August. It was a 2-year guarantee for $6 million with a $3.5 million club option for this year that was picked up. So I believe he's in line for at least a similar deal, if not similar years, maybe 2 years guaranteed with a 3rd-year option, but probably for more money, if for no other reason than inflation has been really high. And so it would need to go up, in my opinion, just to keep up with inflation. But I don't know. What would you think about a 2-year, $9 million deal with a 3rd-year option for like $5 million or $4.5 million or something? You also have to factor in maybe he's going to get worse over the next 3 years because age catches up with us. So that's a factor there. So the Giants, they need to get younger and more athletic. We all know that. But then you've got guys like Flores, who's not getting younger and he's not the most athletic. You've got Jock Peterson, who's not a great defender. But I think that there's no problem with bringing back Flores, bringing back Peterson, and also Rodon is in a totally different category. But there are several guys I think that are worth bringing back. And Flores, I might even have a peg above Peterson in terms of the value that he's brought to this team. Peterson is a totally different kind of situation, but I mean, Flores has been one of their few guys who's kind of an everyday guy this year, and he can handle that. And he's just so consistent and steady and clutch. He has a knack for coming up big in big situations. And lastly, did you know that Gabe Morales, the guy who rung him up on that check swing call in the NLDS, was the home plate umpire for this walk-off home run? And so it was a big, I was thinking this right as he stepped to the plate, and it was the first pitch that he hit out. I was thinking, show Gabe Morales what you could have done against Max Scherzer there if you had just given him a fighting chance, given him the chance he deserved to get to actually swing the bat at a pitch. And first pitch Flores sees, he hits that walk-off home run. So I hope it crossed Gabe Morales' mind that, hey, I took that opportunity to do exactly that away from this guy last year and away from these fans. So I thought that was a little bit poetic. It's not the first time this year, I believe, that he's homered with Gabe Morales on the field. So, I enjoy that type of thing. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combined into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thanks in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Giants versus Dodgers. We've also got a bag full of mailbag questions that we still are planning to get to, kind of littered in throughout the week. So thanks again for listening, and you are now Locked On Giants.